Hello friends, this is a video for October 2022. We will describe the events in October that proclaim very turbulent changes. We can freely say that the upheaval in world relations is in a critical and final phase, and that through incredibly great effort and in a very, very dangerous struggle, the creation of a better world is beginning. We can immediately say what is most important. First, Mars, the planet of war, which is now traveling through the sign of Gemini, is in a full force, and from October the 31st until the January 13, 2023, Mars will be later retrograde. And when it's retrograde, it will be even more intense. Then Uranus, the second important thing. Uranus and Saturn make an exact square in October, which is a key aspect that represents the great struggle between the old and new system, political, economical, and any other. Then the third thing, the eclipse period begins. It is going to be solar eclipse on the 25th of October, and after that, lunar eclipse on the 8th of November. And eclipses potentially always mean the turn that is happening like for the 180 degrees, like things turn completely opposite. And we will see whether this turn will be good and who will benefit from it. And then the fourth important thing in October, Saturn and Pluto are direct. Pluto is slow and takes a few months to get used to its movement in relation to Earth. But we feel Saturn already. We feel it in September, and we will feel it continually until it leaves the sign of Aquarius. That will be in March 2023. And the last important thing is that Jupiter will be retrograde. And from the 28th of October is retrograde in Aries, and after that in Pisces, which is very important. Jupiter is coming back to Pisces, because we need the salvation here on this planet, and Jupiter will represent it. And let's mention other important events. Full moon will occur on the October the 9th in Aries. New moon will happen on the 25th of October in Scorpio, and that is going to be that eclipse of the sun that we mentioned. That from important transits, let's say the Sun is in Libra until the 24th, then is in Scorpio. Mercury is direct from the 2nd of October, and Venus is in Libra until the 24th, then it's in Scorpio. Venus has the similar path now as the Sun, they go together. Sorry about this. The full moon in Aries at the 9th of October is very, very dramatic. This full moon has two emphasized squares and one opposition, and they together look like a sword. There are other aspects, but the main axis consists of planets that are in Aries, Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. This is the sword shape that I mentioned. The full moon heralds the end of development of the events for the period of the previous 6 months. More precisely, something will end now in October 2022, which started in April 2022. Although there are also harmonic aspects during this full moon, still this is going to be very demanding energy. Namely, Mars, the ruler of the full moons, is in square with Neptune, which signifies a secret struggle and unforeseen dangers, as well as secret violence. Unfortunately, I have to say that. It's really not nice to say it, but this aspect is simply trouble for Mars. Part of this moon is also a square between Uranus and Saturn, which speaks of anarchy and the boycott of life in all possible ways, which, as you most probably see, culminates now. Uranus and Saturn in square do not mean any nuclear explosion. They mean more that the ruling structures implement anarchy and do not respect the laws. I mean, simply laws, like not universal laws. Of course, they don't respect universal laws, but they just don't respect the laws that are passed by the lawyer, by the yeah, let's say law, in a law that rules the society. Let's say like that. They don't respect that law. And they also forbid that reforms that should happen in economy and society and politics that happen in an easy way. And that's why this energy blocks us all. But I mentioned in my July video another significant constellation, which is the conjunction of Uranus and Rahu, which was even with Mars, at the end of July and beginning of August. And this constellation that was active in that time is still in a way active, and this is a bit dangerous thing. And because of this conjunction, some are now speaking about nuclear disaster, and of course there are powers in this world that they want to provoke it, but this is just the provocation if you ask me. I would not say that this will happen even we have these aspects, because there are other, I will explain during this video. Actually, there was a danger in July and August, of even in September, of some sort of nuclear explosion because some nuclear electrons were attacked. But they don't speak about this openly because those who are doing that, they won't use it against somebody. I guess you know what I'm talking about. And after that, in September, there were some news that in some countries, like in Germany and in Poland, people are given anti-radiant drugs. So I want to warn everybody here that those who want to provoke this catastrophe, they would never distribute medicines to people because they want to destroy people. And these are the same groups of people. So we should be very, very selective in relation to the news we hear. The same as we had to be very selective in the previous 2 years. Some sort of a new torture will most probably come through media in October and November. Some catastrophic scenarios will alternate, that's for sure. Some kind of nuclear attack, starvation, which is completely false. They just want to create that starvation. It's not real at all. Then lack of energy, climate change, you know their topics. And it seems that they have so many other themes that they can use that they don't need masks and sprays anymore. On the contrary, actually, until now they were saying wash your hands every day and constantly, and now they start saying don't bath, don't wash anything. By accident, save money, you know. And until now they were like talking about that we should be separated from the close ones. But suddenly there was a woman politician in Switzerland, and she suggested that the whole family washes themselves together in one bath, and that's how people will save money. So there are so many nonsense in the media said by politicians, journalists, and others that is unbelievable, and it is also unbelievable how people can still listen to that. And there are so many people that they still don't have critical opinion in relation to the news and media, which will be absolutely necessarily. Otherwise, we will hardly survive this virtual catastrophe that they create. But the main actors in this square of Uranus and Saturn are, of course, Uranus and Saturn themselves. The square I described for the first time in my video, which was horoscope for the year 2021. The name is Let It Burn, and one part of this video I spoke about the square and the meaning of it, so you can check that older video. But I also talk about Uranus in Taurus in a video which has the same name. So I will remind you what I said about Uranus there. Actually, Uranus was not always bad in Taurus, and not critical for everyone. Because in the year 2018, Uranus in Taurus was in trine to the planet Saturn. And that's why Earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, especially those who have planets around the first 5 degrees of their signs, they felt some sort of liberation and impulse to implement big changes in a stable way. However, during the following years, especially in 2021 and now, 22 in October and November, Uranus square Saturn, which is very, very limiting constellation. And then the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, especially those of the second decade, which means those who have planets from the 10th to the 20th degree, these people experience grand tension. This tension weakens if a person accepts himself as he is and certain limitations that he naturally has. So the square weakens when we accept limitations. It is the same on the world level. If we speak about this square through mundane astrology, we can say that so-called rulers of the world, if they accept their limitations, then all our problems will actually stop. As unipolar world no longer exists and will not exist for a long time, for many centuries, so there is no need because of that fact to provoke nuclear war and to destroy all of us, but there is no use to talk to the crazy people. So no use to talk about them and to say them this. I have talked about the critical conjunction that I also mentioned here, which is the conjunction of Uranus, Rahu, and even Mars in summer. The name of this video is Chaos is not to be destroyed, but to be organized. So check that video if you want to see how I explained this conjunction and what that possibly can mean. I want to repeat here, we should not be too much worried that is going to happen big disaster. Yes, they are going to talk about that. They will say lie and they will provoke maybe some chaos, extremely big chaos now again, but this is only a virtual thing. Saturn direct from the 23rd will mark a change in the course of politics. And Pluto direct in Capricorn from October the 9th further emphasizes and reminds us that the changes that begin now will last for centuries. Because Saturn speaks about the cycle that is 30-year cycle, but Pluto speaks about the beginning of the new paradigm, which will be valid next 250 years approximately. These two planets are now closely connected, and they explain each other, because Saturn is the ruler of Pluto in its transit through the sign of Capricorn. So whatever Saturn does, it actually marks Pluto's energy in a way. Pluto will be active again in America's horoscope, USA horoscope, by the end of this year. So it is certain that this country will experience new challenges, financial, political, like mafia things that Pluto also can represent. And the closer Pluto will be to America's natal Pluto, the closest will be in the second part of December. The greater the panic will be in America and the greater chaos they will create in the world, most probably. I remind you that Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn itself, strengthens politicians but weakens the people. So we as humans, we were very, very weak with Saturn in this Aquarius. We needed to learn the lesson. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. We needed to learn the lesson, as always we do with Saturn. And this was the lesson of freedom. Because Saturn in Aquarius teaches us what freedom really is. And of course he does it in his rude, cynical way, but he does it methodically. So we really had a possibility to learn something about this. Watch my Saturn in Aquarius video that I recorded in the year 2020. In that time, we spoke about the change of pyramidal structures for the network structures. And we also talked back about the freedom and things like that, and also about border changes in many countries. You will find that in that video. And I said the changes will be primarily in the countries of Slavic people and in Asia. Well, now while I'm recording this, there already happened a referendum in one Slavic country, it's Ukraine. And it is quite certain that the borders will be changed between Ukraine and Russia. And this is just the beginning. All the countries that emerged from the collapse of the Soviet Union have Saturn in Aquarius. And all of them are now, will have some sort of revision of their status. If they can maintain themselves in their current state, economically, politically, and keep their borders, that's how it should be. If they cannot hold on that, they will be able to change their borders if they want, and we will see. And if it's possible. Aquarius is space, and the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus, is in Taurus sign, which is the sign of territory in mundane astrology. But I'm not going to speak about these astrological details. I'm just telling you the main idea. Borders will change starting now until March 2023, so until Saturn is in Aquarius, and maybe this trend will continue during the year 2023 also, and even after, that could be like the second phase of the change of borders. It will be in the period while Uranus stay in Taurus, means until 2026. Direct Saturn in Aquarius from October 2022 to March 2023 makes a definitive revision of everything that happened in 1992. We sometimes react to Saturn with delay, that's why I said so. No, but 2022-23 must be. These changes must be. I would like to mention something here that is quite important, and this analysis appeared on the internet in the last time. For example, many countries after the fail of Soviet Union actually did not define their borders according to international conventions. So after the 1992, many of those countries that were in Soviet Union, they did not define their borders according to some constitutions and world international constitutions, on conventions better to say. And the same is with Ukraine. And what is also interesting is that Czechoslovakia, country that was separated, like to Czech and Slovak part, also in that time, was actually separated without referendum, but according to the constitution of that state, they could not do it without referendum, which means that the separation was not legal and means that they are not separated. Then Yugoslav republics, after the crisis and war of 1992 and 93, they also did not, until now, many of them define their borders, and so on and so on. So I believe that there are going to be many surprises and changes during this and next year, and even I said until Uranus is in Taurus. And let me say that European Union also has Saturn in Aquarius. So it means that also this union will have some sort of review or some test of sustainability, and will perhaps fail with this test. Those countries maybe will not want to stay together. So big things indeed. Saturn and Pluto in direct movement will bring numerous and other political changes. But let's mention these political changes. It seems that the plan now is to bring the right-wing conservative governments in European countries. Maybe some other, I don't know, but European definitely that already started. In Italy and now after demonstrations in Czech and country, and I think in France also. It is of course natural that after the categorically leftists and liberals, conservatives always come, like some sort of change of this type is normal. If we accept to speak in those old divisions and terms that no longer have any meaning. This terminology is completely old and wrong now. However, this process happening right now can be dangerous. It is dangerous because even these so-called conservatives can also be posted there by globalists who programmed everything until now. And also these so-called conservatives can be the pedal for supporting fascism and Nazism, which is already spreading through many countries of Europe. Of course, fascism does not have anything with left or right. It can well grow in any of these political orientations. It has nothing to do with fascism. I mean, fascism is something that we defined in some of my previous videos, so I'm not going to repeat it. So now those can be used for the same purpose. That's what I wanted to say. Of course, it is necessary for movements that think of people's interests to appear. We mentioned that in connection with transit of Rahu through the sign of Taurus. So each country should born like politicians who could protect the interests and the property and the territory of that country. But let's hope that those so-called conservatives are not going to be used for the opposite purposes. So let's be very careful as people who we support. At the protest, for example, in Prague that happened on September 28, many very sincere and true words were spoken, but some people still talk about so-called democracy and asking people, are you ready to fight for democracy and these kind of things? And this is outdated expression. Democracy is misused and outgrown. It actually never existed. Something like democracy does not exist, and it's not possible that should exist in such huge countries who have like 7 or 10 or 60 millions of people. And in the future, in this new future world that we are going to create, we will talk about fraternity, freedom, and equality, not about democracy. And yes, you will say again about fraternité, égalité, and these kind of things. Well, yes, my answer is yes again. It is the same like in some previous revolutions. The development of individual consciousness will now show whether we are able to do something better with these notions, these ideas of égalité and fraternité, these kind of things. Are we able to use it better than in previous centuries? We will say, but as an idea, it's fine. And it's the only possible way for development. Political changes are possible wherever globalists want it. So they create some trouble in Iran now, big crisis. I think, like many of you most probably, that women should decide for themselves how to dress and what to wear. But I also know that this scenario is created because of other purposes, not because they want to help women in Iran. And a very, very similar thing was created with like female rights in Kosovo and Metohija, Serbian region in the summer this year. So they're repeating the same thing, and always they do this in the same way. They create troubles. But in connection with this, I want to explain some other things. Mars is in Gemini, and at the very end of the month, on the 25th of October, it will be retrograde. As we said, on the 25th degree will be retrograde in the end of October. And this 25th degree means struggle and willfulness. Quite good for Mars. Mars is very intense in October, and it has excellent aspects on the 17th, 18th, and 26th of October. But let's delve a little into the symbolism of Mars in Gemini. Mars in the sign of Gemini means a conflict between brothers. Simply saying, it's quite simple interpretation, Although it often makes sense, it can be something like that. This would explain that the fight between brotherly nations is being fought again and again, and is being prepared to grow. Hopefully it will not grow, and hopefully it's not that bad as they show in medias now. However, the symbolism can be even deeper, which is that this is conflict between two peoples who have different origins. One who have divine and other who has mortal. Because Gemini sign is the sign of two brothers, Castor and Pollux, and one was mortal and the other was immortal. And we have projection of this mythos on Earth. This conflict is going on for many centuries. It is a secret one. And now it is experiencing its culmination again. I guess many of you will know what I'm talking about. What is even more interesting, retrograde Mars will be turned retrograde near the star Alhec, which is located on the horn of Taurus, in the constellation of Taurus. Now I speak about constellation Taurus. This Alhec means white spot in translation. And the Taurus itself, as the horns of the bull, had extremely significant symbolism in the time when the vernal equinox occurred in the Taurus constellation. And according to some, that was in period from 4100 until the 1900 BC. Bull horns were widely used in Vedic culture, ancient Persia, and Minoan culture, I guess in English, in Creta. Who was in this island, the island of Creta? He could see this in the palace. There are still these horns of the bull and the sun was coming through them. And there is in the museum, there are many goddesses and goddesses who wear this horn, which was important symbol. I'm not going to describe it in details, but of course, some sort of connection with the divine. For example, in Czech language, there is literature about the symbolism of Taurus. In Vedas, I don't know if there are in other languages. But I wanted to say that retrograde Mars near the star Alheka means a great danger that should awaken courage in people. Certainly Iran, which is the successor of old Persia, as well as those who inherit the old Vedic tradition, those nations will be challenged to fight for their survival. I said quite a lot with this here, and I will let you to think and to do your research what this could really be about. Then the new moon is in Scorpio, which is a partial solar eclipse happening on October 25th on the 2nd degree of Scorpio. And the sun will be eclipsed the same as Mercury and Venus. Since it's a partial eclipse, it won't be intense as the next one in November. The first one will mostly affect people who have planets on the last degrees in Libra and first degrees of Scorpio. The sun and the moon will be in conjunction with Ketu, south node, so lucky are those who are able to give up their needs and passion, to give up their will, possibly investments or wealth or power, or even those who are ready to leave some bad patterns that they cultivated for many years before. That's Scorpio. Scorpio simply. No, Scorpio is all of those things. But those who have a lot of investments, wealth, and those kind of people, they want to leave that. They don't want to leave that, yeah? Even some people with the bad habits, they don't really want to leave them. So what happens if people doesn't want to give up of something in this period voluntarily? Well, the following is the process in which one loses it. However, since the second Scorpio degree is marked like mercy, this loss is still not going to be a critical one. But we cannot observe eclipses separated. This one in October, we have to talk about through the eclipse in November. And the second one in November will happen on the 16th degree of Taurus, which will be very intense because it will be near Uranus and Rahu. Rahu is in Taurus. Both eclipses particularly affect European Union, which is Scorpio in its horoscope, and of course many other parts of the world also. So in November there will be total lunar eclipse in conjunction with Uranus and Rahu, which means that the danger announced by the conjunction of Uranus and Rahu at the beginning in August is repeated. The danger of explosion is high, but it will be misused, I guess. They will make some propaganda and scare people, but it will not really happen. As you most probably know, they recently sabotaged the Nord Stream gas pipeline. An American president, before that happened, said that they are going to do it. No secrets for them, at least in this matter. For many, gas and nuclear energy is connected with Uranus, and we know it's in a bad position. And for some, gas is connected with Pluto, but we are not going to speak about those details. I just want to say that in context with this danger, square between Uranus and Saturn can be good, because Saturn can actually prevent some sort of large-scale accident from happening through some explosion or whatever. Because each aspect is good for something. And the square can also mean that something is holding Uranus in this concrete square. Saturn is holding Uranus from the explosion or something like that. In the period between two eclipses, we actually don't need to do anything. This is like 2 weeks period, and it's really good for fast. We should actually eat minimally, avoid alcohol, drugs, and whatever. We should try to stay conscious as much as possible, because anyway, in that time, our subconscious is quite strong. 2 weeks before the first eclipse, we already feel that change is coming, and this change can also, of course, be very pleasant for many. But people are usually afraid of changes. And of course, passion is here strong. Doesn't matter if it's sexual, political, or any other. So it will be very hard to rationalize this process. Essentially, the period between eclipses brings changes that we cannot control because they are part of some like a universal project, or they belong to some sort of universal law which cannot be avoided, and we are informed about that through our consciousness. Just we need to learn about that. We are informed through our subconscious, and when they pass away, then we should start to understand it consciously. Before that, between eclipses, we are not really conscious. And eclipses, I can say, can be of a great benefit for spiritual people because they always open new dimensions of their existence. During the new moon that will happen during the eclipse in Scorpio, the square between Mars and Neptune that we talked about is still active. This is a very important thing. And if it's active during the new moon, that means that we will feel it next 6 months. And as I said, that can be about secret diversions, explosions, secret things, secret punishments, even frauds and things like that. So let's be ready for that. Eclipses will affect people who have planets, both of them, who have planets in the first and second decade of Scorpio and Taurus, mostly. Those people can be irritated before and during the eclipses because they will want to change things, but that will be not possible. So just remember, better to wait a little bit. No need to hurry. Let me mention that I offer a horoscope interpretation, which is based on some old Indian techniques, and it belongs to spiritual astrology. And this interpretation has a name, what is the meaning of your existence? And there I explain prenatal eclipses and lunar nodes. So you can order this analysis of your horoscope if you're interested, consultations. They can be very useful for people who need to know better themselves, and especially if they are in the phase where they need to clarify their path, which is often happening in the time of eclipses, especially if eclipses are on the important points of the horoscope. Of course, with the symbolism of those events, celestial events in Taurus, Scorpio axis, we also associate this energy crisis, so-called the lack of food which they invent, collapse of current banking system and so on, but I'm not mentioning it now because I talk about that many times already. In personal horoscopes, the era of Scorpio means abandoning old models of behavior, and in the era of Taurus, we need to further develop something, to improve something, and if we follow the North Node direction, our life will be always exciting because we will always learn something new. Of course, many people are afraid of new things, but this is what gives, what makes life juicy and lovely, to follow this path. And finally, let me mention that Jupiter will be in Pisces again, as we said, from the 19th of October until the 21st of December, when we will need it the most. Maybe you will remember that we spoke about Jupiter in April, when Jupiter met with Neptune in Pisces. And we said prayers to create new pattern for the next 12 years. The conjunction of Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces, in its positive manifestation, represents cosmic and divine power. So we said that we will see next 12 years who has divine power, who is supported by the cosmic law. If you decide to watch video from April 2022, you will remind yourself of this prayer, which I recommend to you. Jupiter now again returns into Pisces as a symbol of salvation. And that leads me, because we will have Jupiter in Pisces shortly again, in the time where we really need it, that we will be saved from these horrible things that somebody is preparing for us. On October 22nd, also Venus will be in conjunction with the Sun, which is also a very nice thing. This is the best day in October, and if you are planning any meetings, wedding, or some events, whether they concern people or money, try to organize them on that day. It is the best day for Libra people, those who celebrate birthday now in October, and also for Taurus people and all of those who are under the strong influence of Venus. And let me say at the end, how we go through the period of great challenges depends on our level of consciousness. If someone wants to believe in lie, it will not be useful either to himself or to the collective. But if we are ready to follow the path of the truth, then with these events that are happening in the world, through many obstacles, we will learn a lot. In the period when civilization collapses, and it's happening now, some disappear and others mature. And it is up to each of us to decide whether we will be in panic because of the old system going, or we will listen to some lies, or we will follow this what is happening in some sort of a curious way, and we will understand all of those events that are happening as a significant moment in the development of our own consciousness. And in order to develop further or to get to know ourselves, perhaps we should ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? Why was I born in this historical period, and what does this tells me about me? Do I need more such dramatic things to happen to me? What good are those dangerous things doing to me? Do they serve something? And do I need that anymore? Or will I draw into the misfortune of a failed civilization, or am I ready to change myself? Or what should I do with myself in order to change and be satisfied both now and in the future? So always when things are happening around you, ask yourself, why are you part of that? You can invent many questions like that and maybe decide to change that model, that pattern for yourself, and then you will change it for all of us. And that's all that I wanted to tell you now. Feel free to contact me if you want to have personal consultations with me. You will see what I offer on my webpage, symbolicthinking.net. As you know, I have more online material offering in other languages. If you decide to have any type of consultations that I offer, just please know that I don't predict anything, because I believe that every of us has a free will, and that what will happen to us depends on the level of self-awareness. I offer consultancy based on astrological psychology, spiritual astrology. I do Theta healing and offer also consultations about Feng Shui. If you like the video, like it, sign up to my channel, and thank you very, very much for that in advance. I wish you happiness and joy. Thank God for everything every day, and may life flourish on earth. And see you soon.